Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I'm unboxing the AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D. This CPU has been on the market now for several months and is arguably the most sought-after processor for gamers on the market. I'll include a link in the description for those of you interested in purchasing one, and in full disclosure, this was not furnished to me by the manufacturer, but rather I purchased it. In fact, it was just because I was in Best Buy today picking up a new Nest doorbell, saw that they had inventory on this chip, and knew I had to pick it up. It's not because I need it, it's because I need to see what AMD has been up to. And that's because for those of you that have missed it, this 9800 X3D offers arguably the best gaming performance, at least for CPU-bound games, on the market. So, whether you're gaming at 1080p, 1440p, or 4K, your results will vary, and of course, the type of GPU you're using is going to impact what this processor can do. But what is not in question is that at a little under $500 retail, $480 to be exact, I believe, you probably aren't going to find a better CPU when it comes to the frame rate you'll get out of, again, CPU-bound games. Now, when it comes to your overall experience, doing more mixed work, productivity, video editing, rendering, this is not the CPU for that. So again, that's why I stated at the top of this video, I don't know that this is the right processor for me, but it could easily be the right processor for you. So if you're going to pair this with something like a 3090 Ti, a 4080, or the 4090 that I use in my workstation, you probably aren't going to see a huge benefit, if really any benefit at all. Most of the benchmarking I've seen of this chip, and I'm sure you have as well, since it has been out for a while now, it really amounts to getting more around, I would say, a 10 frame gain over competing processors. But what people don't really get into, and that's in the realm of 4K gaming, which is where I've resided now for nearly a decade, what people don't get into is what ultimately occurs if you're not in the realm of 4K gaming. Or rather, they are hyper-focused on 1080p, which is what I should say, which, again, this is going to give you, in CPU-bound titles, the best performance money can buy. But outside of gaming, this thing, I think, is right on par with like an Intel 12th gen CPU. And when I say on par, it will still underperform it. So if you plan on streaming, not just photo or video editing, traditional productivity, but if you want to do streaming, something that I think a lot of gamers want to, again, not the best CPU. So in a perfect world, I see this being ideal simply for having a gaming system. Anything beyond that, I'm not saying it can't do it. In fact, most boutiques right now their most premium builds are centered around this chip. But I think a lot of that is to do with marketing more than anything. And I think that is where this has gone. AMD has done some amazing things in the last 5 years. Some would argue in the last decade. I would say, my first dance with AMD, where I really got a taste for what they were capable of, was back at the beginning of the pandemic with the Asus G15. Just an amazing marriage of essentially performance, efficiency, and that NVIDIA GPU launching at the same time. That was the 3070. It was just a beautiful match. Here we have quite the opposite. We're getting an amazing CPU, and the real benefit here with this 8-core chip is that 3D cache. That's a huge benefit for VR, something you may not hear a lot, and that's something I plan on testing with this beyond just gaming, because that is something I've read up on that this chip excels at. Again, a lot of reviewers don't make mention of it, but that seems to be a big element. And for those of you trying to understand why this has such solid gaming performance, the best way to distill that is that cache, because essentially any games, again, that are more CPU than GPU bound and rely on the CPU, the cache is going to be one of the primary ways this chip is able to essentially pull off higher frame rates, just speedier access to often used data that your Intel CPU just isn't going to be there with, because it doesn't have this cache system. And when you see those crazy cache numbers attached to this chip, well, that's your reminder. So that's the big difference, I would say. But again, when it comes to mixed use, multitasking, and delving into You can see it in those Cinebench results. They cannot be faked. They do not lie. This is near the bottom of competing products as opposed to what it does with gaming. So please, I'm sharing this because, yes, it is one of the most popular chips on the market, but I also want people to understand, to be able, rather, to look beyond marketing. So again, for 4K gaming, this will, I anticipate, outperform my current Intel-based machine, but the question is by how much? Again, it will all depend on the actual title you're playing, and what I'm getting at is that ultimately this probably isn't going to make a lot of sense for someone who's coming from an Intel 13th or, of course, 14th gen chip, unless you have a different problem, as we all know. But in terms of apples-to-apples performance, yes, this will outperform those two chips, gaming, but not by enough that I would tell anybody to go out and buy it. And that's why I find it curious that so many boutique builders are really pushing this chip when we all know this is an amazing performer, which I'm going to find out firsthand if I go ahead with building this out, which I think I'm going to. But then in addition to that, it's all about its efficiency, right? Because that's really the big deal, is that if you've looked into benchmarks with this chip, then you see that it not only matches Intel's top of the line, or I'll just say the 14th gen i9, but in matching it, it's doing it at nearly 100 watts less on that performance. And of course, that varies by game. Now, for desktop users, this efficiency isn't something we can feel, right? It's something we can maybe see ultimately in our power bill, but not really so much because you're talking about 100 watts. But from an engineering standpoint, that is amazing that AMD has been able to get like performance with 100 watt, or roughly 100 watts less going to the CPU. I mean, on average, a little under 100 watts was what I was seeing on a lot of benches going to this versus its Intel 14th gen counterpart, which again was closer to pulling almost 200 watts. And this was still neck and neck with it or slightly outperforming it. And again, about a 10 frame gain is what I'm expecting pairing this with the 4090. Now, what you saw in the beginning of this shot, having something like the 4080, 3090 Ti, I expect similar performance. But the reason when this launched that there was so much emphasis about Full HD was because they anticipate so many people are still gaming at Full HD and 1440, not just 4K. 4K is still a minority, but it's also because that's where you could see the appreciable gains that this chip has to offer. Because again, a game has to be able to push out enough frames for the benefits to be there, if that makes sense. And you ultimately want to get to a point where your CPU is not a bottleneck. That's the way it should always be. It should always be the GPU. GPUs are much more expensive. I'm sure you've noticed. They have a very different role, but if you're a gamer, ultimately the most important role, because the argument I could also make against buying one of these chips is that, and this is the argument I would always make, get what you can in the CPU realm that doesn't limit your performance, but make sure you get a GPU that gives you headroom. And what I mean by that is that if you can afford to go with the 90 series cards, they're always going to ensure that you will not need to upgrade your CPU for a long time. Do it in the reverse. Get yourself a really affordable CPU, or rather, a really expensive CPU is what I meant, and get yourself a mid-tier GPU, something like a 70 series card. It's not a bad pairing, but what I can tell you is that you will need to upgrade your GPU a lot sooner than your CPU, and that's because, again, really good GPUs can carry older CPUs, since I feel like the majority of titles are not CPU bound. So put that in your pipe and smoke it as well. Not trying to confuse or take you on too broad a tour here, but the reality is I feel you're always best off investing the money in your GPU. That will extend the life of your gaming rig. So again, just something else to be aware of. But with something like the 4080 or the 3090 Ti, this will do well. Where this is really going to excel is with those lower end cards that do rely on the CPU to do, I won't say heavy lifting, but lifting. But remember, all those extra cores you get from Intel that people scoff at, even in the Ultra line now, those are killer when it comes to having to deal with video editing, rendering. I mean, the Cinebench results, as I mentioned earlier, they simply do not lie. Where this chip is going to just be not garbage, but certainly nowhere near its nearly $500 asking price. So please keep that in mind. This is a great gaming chip. It is not a perfect chip. What AMD has done perfectly is make themselves not just relevant, but bleeding edge, outperforming Intel at a price point specifically for gaming. But this is where the rub is for me, which is that ultimately I'm not in love with the idea that I'm about to build a gaming system that really is a one-trick pony. And that is not something I would get with any of the Intel chips 13th gen and on. Granted, there are other problems you might run into. I haven't personally ran into any of those issues, but enough people have. So I get why people are also gravitating towards AMD, besides the fact that they're doing innovative things. But that pretty much rounds out why the 9800 X3D is in the studio. Now I just have to find the right motherboard for it. And ultimately, we're going to find out how it performs, I think, with my 4090. But see, this is where it gets tricky. The 4090 I still really depend on for video editing. In a perfect world, I would pair this with a new 5090. And then you have your gaming dream machine, but not multi-use. And I'm a mixed-use guy. I'm never going to just be using my machine for gaming. But let's think of it this way, if 80% of what you're buying your GPU for is for gaming, then maybe a CPU like this makes sense. But if you're in the world of like 50-50, then you should be getting a CPU that's for the 50% that this is leaving on the table, which is really any sort of computational work. So again, kudos to AMD for making a monster like this that is potentially going to outperform what I've been using with my 4090 from Intel. But again, how many games is my CPU my problem in? Pretty much none. So this is fixing a problem that really isn't for 4090s or 3090 Ti's necessarily, or 4080s. That's what I've been getting at through the course of the video. But I'm curious what all of you think. I mean, this chip kind of got shoved down everyone's throats, and people have been treating it like it's the latest and greatest reinvention of the space. But we know it just has amazing results when it comes to gaming, and beyond that, nothing too amazing other than its efficiency. These are all great things, and again, love that AMD is doing it, but we've got to be realistic about our needs for a brand new build. And I'm curious what all of you are interested in. Granted, the architecture here, that 3D cache, that 3D V cache, you can go to the previous gen, and it still has excellent gaming chops. But, there are a lot of advantages to the new chipset, and that's where I'll be stopping next with the motherboard, PCIe Gen 5, just that whole throughput across the board. This is something I've been waiting for a long time. With Thunderbolt, all these things actually being native on motherboards now, Wi-Fi 7, all good stuff to get excited about, even if I don't have a 5090 on hand. But tell me what you're all interested in. Are you interested in going this way? Or like me, even though I have it here on the channel, would you be thinking at a $500 price point, I'm probably better suited with really something from Intel, or going a different route, with AMD and getting a the 5590, just giving yourself something that has not Threadripper capability, obviously, but something that leans into multi-use rather than just a gaming-centric chip. But let me know. I'm curious, and what GPU you plan on putting it to work with. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.